Flosstube! Welcome to my channel. I'm Jessie, and this is Boba Jessie Stitches. And today is May 1st, Sunday, and I am recording my April update. How are y'all doing? Fix my hair there real quickly. I'm doing all right. So, it's been a good April. I will say that for the most part, I did some self-care time off this month for work. I took every Friday off. There was some Fridays I worked a little bit, but for the most part, I took every Friday off and enjoyed 4-day weeks in April. And I'll tell you this, y'all, I understand this movement to try to move towards a 4-day work week. Did I lose time at work? Yes, but because I knew I was going to be off on Friday, I was probably a little bit more efficient in my work on Monday through Thursday. Like not efficient, that maybe not be the right word, but I reallocated my to-do lists and things like that to make sure that things that needed to get done got done. Things that would have happened on Friday, I ended up adding it into Monday, but it didn't really add that much work to my day on Friday. Like it did, but it didn't, right? It was manageable, it was incorporated and things like that. And so yeah, in my work, I think I could do a 4-day week. Is it gonna happen? No. Oh, but enough so that but I felt rested enough that I'm still burnt out. Just gonna let you know, still burnt out. But I did feel like it helped me a little bit with my being able to recharge and approaching my week a little bit better. That my husband and I have talked about whether or not I wanted to shift my work after we have our vacations scheduled in June, but coming back from that, maybe reverting to, I think it's called a 90-10, where I work 9 days at 8.5, 9 hours, and then taking off every other Friday, and just kind of build that into my work schedule and as planned, as opposed to taking leave, planning to take that as leave. So, thinking about it. Anyways, let's get to some stitching. Unfortunately, that didn't mean I actually did more stitching. I did a little bit more 24-hour cross stitch. I did do some stitching that day. I ended up putting in 8 hours that day, but I really didn't. It was me spending time. I've been working on cleaning the space, trying to get this room set up, and did some other ran errands. I didn't actually stitch. I ended up taking care of things. I slept. One of those days I slept noon. Anyways, but so not, relatively not tons of stitching. But anyway, so let's get going. So overall in this month I did 9,176 stitches, which is it's less than average for me. But as you see, when I get to my to Cinderella this month, I don't count, for the most part, I don't count back stitching or French knots when I am for my counting. I did count a little bit of the knots for a challenge purpose to hit a goalpost in a challenge, but other than that, I don't tend to count those. And so you'll see I did a lot of work on back stitching and knots. So, but first up is the one that I worked on for one day, just again to kind of hit a stitching challenge, and that is Liberty Quaker by Luminous Fiber Arts. So this is what it will look like when it is done, and this is where we are, which is not a lot. Basically, last time you saw it, I had filled in most of this first part of the star. I just finished filling in that bottom star with the off-white color, so not a lot. So I am doing this 2/2 and 32 count linen, and I don't have my sheet in front of me of all the stuff, so I go rip this out. It's not Luminous. It's Lakeside linens, and it's Mountain Baker Blue is the color that this is. And I'm doing all of this with the called for flosses, which is a mixture of various flosses, Classic Colorworks, Gentle Arts, and DMC. So that's fun. Obviously, I haven't done tons of it, but I am thinking that this might end up becoming a focus this summer to try to get this done as part of my goal to finish all of the projects that I started prior to 2021 this year. I don't, except for Sailor Moon. So we'll see how that goes. So that was first up. Second was a new start. So as you may recall, last month I finished. Oh, I didn't say welcome. Welcome to new and old. Welcome in. I hope we're going to have a good time today. Sorry. But as you may recall from last month, for those of you who are returning, I did finish Hello. Which one did I finish? Hello Dear. I finished Hello Dear by Caterpillar Cross Stitch. And so on April 1st, I had a new start for Hello Petal. And so this is what it will look like. Focus. When it is done. And let me take it out of the, I have it in the hoop still. I started it when I was at my in-laws for the weekend, and I forgot to bring a coup snap. So we went and purchased a hoop, and in order to make sure my tension remained the same, I've been stitching in the hoop, which is a little unusual for me, but I'm getting used to it. A little idle chit chat as I undo everything so that you can see. Clearly, I was very prepared. But new start for Hello Petal, and this is where we are. I mean, look at that. I am so close to being done. But that being said, it's deceptive, right? I still have that giant bunny and that chick that needs to get done, and that's going to take me some time to do. This is really probably a few more days worth of work on it. So, but everything is from start to finish, right? It's a new start. So I'm doing this with the kit from Caterpillar Cross Stitch, and so it's 28 count even weave 2/2 with the called for DMC. Oh, but I love it. It's just so much fun. And in total, I worked on this for 18 days, and it ended up being my primary focus piece for the month. And I put in 6,442 stitches. So a little bit unusual for me to focus on just two projects for the month, but that's what I did. It's what called to me this month. I didn't really feel particularly drawn to stitching other things, and so there was one other thing I'm going to show you that I did try to do, but that's where we are. So that was fun. All right. Oh, get this in there. And then last but not least, I worked on Cinderella Wishes Upon a Dream by MCG Textiles. I'm going to go ahead and insert a picture, probably right here, where the white is, of what it looked like the last time you saw it at the end of, actually, first, I really am not very prepared for today. That's okay. This is what it looks like when it will be done. Okay. Now I'm going to insert a picture of what it will look like the last time that you saw it. And I ended up working on this for 11 days. And for counted stitches, I put in 2,582 stitches, of which about 100 would be those knots that I counted towards a challenge. And here is where we are. You see it? You see it? All right, there we go. So I finished the page. I'm really very excited about it. And you can also see, as you may recall, like right here, there was this part right here was charted incorrectly on in the actual pattern. It's charted incorrectly. It was stitched in blue, and I ended up correcting it. I took an evening and I corrected it. So my stitch count does include the restitching, and but it's I ultimately, as you know, I hemmed and hawed on it on whether or not I wanted to correct it, and ultimately I did, and I'm glad I did. I think it looks fantastic. I think that it looks so much better in the gray than it did in the blue, and why did I kind of decide to do it? Because at first I was like, you know what, this is just part of the story of MCG Textiles. The mistakes in there. There's already another mistake, which is that they gave me the wrong floss color for one of the greens, and so the trees don't have as much of the color dimensions as they do in the model stitch. And I was like, it's just going to be part of the story. I'm just going to leave it in. But then I really thought about it. This is going to be hundreds of hours worth of stitching by the time it's all said and done, by the time I put it in, right? And I love the painting. I love Cinderella is my fairy tale, is my favorite fairy tale, and 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 I was like, and I just knew the more I thought about it that once it was done and framed and everything, that I was just going to look at the mistake and know that the mistake was there. And so to me, it was worth the evening, and it was about 4 hours worth of work to frog it and correct it, and that was fine. I think it's going to be fantastic when it's done. The hope is that I have enough of the floss to cover the remaining grays in the rest of the pattern. Hopefully that's not a thing that MCG Textiles was doing, where it was not enough floss. But if there isn't, the intention is I'll just go ahead and convert it as best as I can with DMC. There's a statue right here in the grays that I'll stitch last to make sure I have enough for everything else. And there we go. That's going to be it. So what does this leave for us? It's May 1st, y'all. It's time for Monogamous May. So I'm going to focus on Cinderella in May, and which means it'll be my project for the entire time. There will be an asterisk next to that. I'm going to have one exception, which is that we will be traveling to my in-laws for Mother's Day weekend. And I'm not going to travel with Cinderella. It's going to be a quick trip. We're going to go basically for one day. We're just going for the holiday, and then we'll be coming back. And so I'm not going to pack up the big. It'd be different if we were going to be there for a few days. I can set up a space and things like that. But since we're not, I am going to take Hello Petal with me for the weekend, and so that's going to be the only exception. Which, but otherwise, the plan is, unless something weird happens, I'm going to focus on Cinderella for the month of May, and that's it. Like that's where we're going to be. I'm excited to see how much we can get done. The goal is to finish Cinderella this year, and but I'm going to let you know though, right? Like most of what I did on 24-hour cross stitch was working on Cinderella. So most of my hours of the 20, I ended up doing about 22 hours, 22 and a half hours, something like that. Like something like 12 of that, 14 of that was finishing up Cinderella. I may be exaggerating a little bit, but at least half of the time, and that was just doing all the back stitching and all those French knots. I mean, there has to be, well, like who knows how many? Like there's so much, like all those knots at the bottom, at the side there, like, took forever. I'm not a big fan of knots either. I'm not bad at them. Well, they're not great. Like they're not like. Don't look too closely. They're not perfect knots, but who cares? Galloping horse kind of thing, right? No one's going to be looking at it that closely. Well, someone might, but who cares? So what else happened this month? As I mentioned, there was kind of this effort to do something, and I did not succeed. So if you follow me on Instagram at Bobo_JessieC, info below if you wish to follow me, I did have a new start for the Thai New Year, which is Songkran, which is on April 13th to the 15th is the Songkran Festival. It is the historical New Year's Day for Thailand, and I am half Thai. My mom is Thai. But I didn't say this in my post when I posted about it on Instagram. Thailand's not the only country that or culture that celebrated the Solar New Year, which the Songkran is the Thai word for the New Year, but it's the Solar New Year for when the sun moves into Aries. So there's some Asian cultures, Chinese culture, China specifically, celebrate the Lunar New Year, which is what most people think of as the Asians' New Year. But there are other Asians who celebrated the Solar New Year, and that's typically in and that also moves, right? But typically in April. And it wasn't always a fixed date, but it became fixed. Thailand fixed it on April 13th. And so I can't speak on the other cultures, but we're not the only one. So there are other countries who do that. But for a New Year start for me, I decided I was going to start pin stitch tie dancer. Okay, so this is, oh, focus. I did get this as a haul last month, and I was like, okay, I'm going to start that for New Year's. I have, even though I'm doing No New Starts as one of my challenge groups, I was like, I'm going to go ahead and start it and go from there. And so, pulling everything out of the bag. So, unfortunately, this is provided for AIDA, 14 count. It's gigantic, but this will cut you great. Like, it's so stiff, and I hated stitching on it. I put in that much stitches, and I hated it. Like, and actually, it's this way. It was hurting my hand to do it. And here's the thing: if you've watched me before, for a while now, I ended up UFOing a pattern that I was working on for Studio Gimli for a no face because the AIDA fabric was just so stiff, and I just hated stitching on it. And every time I tried, I would end up just putting it off and not wanting to do it. And so I knew going this far in, which was, I don't know, about 150 stitches or something like that I wasn't going to like it. And so, and to add to that, even though this is the call for fabric, the lighting is making it so that you can see the other color. But I feel like you can't really see the color on that. And it could, right, here's the pattern. Like, I don't know your intended for the background cascading leaves to be fully visible. I don't know. But as of right now, I feel like you can't see it. So I was like, well, let me see if I can loosen this up. So I am planning on trying soaking it and doing, I got some people on Instagram give me some great suggestions on how to try to soften up the AIDA. So I am going to still do it because it's still a good solid piece of AIDA. I hate to not use it just and be wasteful. It's not that I don't like stitching on AIDA. I don't mind. I do have soft AIDA that I like stitching on. Cinderella is on an AIDA and that fabric is fine. It's just that it's so stiff. So I went diving through my stash and seeing, do I have anything that I could use? It's a BAP though, right? So it's a giant piece, and I wasn't sure if I was going to have anything that was going to be big enough. And so, but I found in my stash I had Fiberlicious, Yummy Fiberlicious Silver Moon. And so here is that fabric. As you can see, I put in just this little tiny stitch there. So this is what I was thinking about using. And I loved the idea of it because, one, it would be fully Stitch Asia, right? Asian pattern, Asian designer, Asian fabric. Just the floss would be not Asian, right? So I really like the idea of that. And so, but then as I was kind of sitting on this, making sure I was going to want to do that, what comes in but this month's Fabric of the Month Club from Yummy Fiberlicious, which is Queen Crepe Myrtle. Look at this. Isn't that beautiful? And so it's a little washed out by the light, but let me open it up so that you can see it. Look at that. What about this one? What do y'all think? So once again, here's the pattern. Okay, a little ring light reflection there. Here's the pattern. Do you think Queen Crepe Myrtle, which is the new one, or do you think Silver Moon? I don't know. I'm gonna put it on Instagram as a poll, see what people have to say. But there's a part of me that thinks it's this one. It's this, right? Because look at all these purples that are going to be in that dress, in her dress. With this one, and then those greens, and I just, I kind of like the idea of it. So, anyways, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. Share in the comments. And, but yeah. Now I know what you're thinking, Jessie. Look at that corner. Yeah. So these are 32 count Luganas, and they are fat fat quarters. I did all the calculations. It's barely going to fit in within that. I have to have a 1 inch border. That's it. That's all I'll have to have for it to fit. But it will fit. And I talked to my framer at Michael's, which is where I get my framing done. I've never had a problem with them. I do think, just like anything else, it depends on who you're working with and who the individual is. My framer at Michael's does a fantastic, has always done a really good job. So I don't have a problem taking it to Michael's. And I asked her how much room she needs to be able to frame anything. And basically she's like, I just need 1 inch, right? So they pin it, they don't lace it. And so I'm accepting her at her word that she can frame that when it's all said and done. Though that being said, it's a BAP, right? For all I know, she won't be working there when I'm done with it, like in 10 years. But it's a risk I'm going to take. That's basically what I'm saying. It's a risk I'm going to take. All right. So what does that lead us to now? So fun things. I wanted to kind of mention some people that, I have been watching some floss tubers that I think are worth the time and effort to go take a look at. And so first up, I want to say that I have been watching, she's a new to me, not new floss tuber, but she is a new to me floss tuber, Sarah, and her channel is called I Swear I Am Stitching. For all of these people I'm going to mention, I'll have links below, or in the description if you're on an app. I think it ends up on the side here. But I was watching her and I entered one of her giveaways and I won a giveaway. So I won this embroidery for Allison Glass. Sorry for the shine. It's hard to see because it's not very bright, but you can see that it is an embroidery pattern. So last year I did Allison Glass Stitch Club, where she did like a summer thing where she said a journal every month and talking about different types of stitching and everything. And I bought like fabric and floss for it, and then I didn't do any of the projects. So yeah. So I was really excited for this. I don't know when I will do this, but I'm glad that I got it. I'm looking forward to giving it a try. I was thinking that this might be a good thing to practice embroidery on and make it into a project bag. But go check out Sarah. She is a multi-crafter. She also quilts and knits and shows her projects there. She does I'm not a completionist, y'all. I don't go back and watch people from the beginning unless there's only a handful. And typically when I find a new to me floss tuber who's been doing it for a while, I'll go watch the very first video if I can find it. If it's like more than 5 years, I don't tend to go look for them. But I tend to go watch the first video because that's usually where they introduce themselves and you learn about who they are, right? And but otherwise I tend to just kind of either watch the most recent and like the one before, and that's it. But she tends to have a finish every video. She's filming weekly, I think. But I enjoy her. Go check her out. The next up, I also wanted to mention that if you are not already watching her, but you're enjoying watching my progress on Cinderella, that please go check out Lucky Chance Stitcher. She is also working on Cinderella, and she has got 3 of the pages done and has one more page left to do, but she hasn't done any of the back stitching or the French knots, but her goal is to finish it this year as well. So go check her out because I'm really enjoying seeing her progress on it. I'm also really going to be excited to see the before and after impact of the finishing stitches, right? The back stitching and the knots and how it's going to look at that point, because I'm doing it as I go, mostly because I'm highlighting the pattern. It's going to be hard to remember where everything is. And, right. Because right, as you're stitching a pattern, you kind of get to know what the symbols mean, what colors they are and stuff like that. And so typically with a small enough pattern, I do all the back stitching at the end because, I can still remember. But something this big where it's taking me multi-months, multi-years to finish it, like I'm worried that like I'm not going to remember looking at the pattern and being able to figure out where everything actually falls because I don't remember what the symbol means and what color it is and where it corresponds in the actual project. So that's me personally. That's the way I stitch. But but I'm looking forward to seeing the impact that for that. So go check out Lucky Chance Stitcher. she also has a great like big project of houses that she's working on, which is not my style of stitching, and that's okay. Everyone has their own style of stitching, but I love the look of the project. Like, and that's the thing. Like, right, that's the benefit of cross stitching, right? Like watching these floss tubers is that you get to go and watch people who are stitching things that either you don't have time to stitch but would love to stitch, so you're living vicariously through that, or you're being enabled, right? It's someone who stitches like you, your twin buddy, your stitching buddy, and you're like, I go to buy everything that's there, right? And then there's also just in general, like the watching people who love stitching something that you wouldn't stitch and seeing that come to life. I think that's always a lot of fun. And I enjoy watching that. So, but anyways, the next one that I wanted to mention was Allie with Show and Tell Stitcher. She is also new to me. She is not a new floss tuber either. And but I really enjoyed her video. I think she's fun. She has a bit of a, is snarky the right word? I'm not sure, but there's some like, I'm not like I make it sound like she's not snarky, but there's a little like I like the way she talks. Like I like the way she kind of like speaks about things. And so and I'm trying to remember some of her projects now, which I'm kind of blanking on what she does. But I've watched a handful of her videos. I've actually gone back and watched 2 or 3 of her videos and really enjoyed it. And so I do recommend that you go and check her out. But one of the things that she talked about in one of her most recent videos is it's May. And historically, there's been some big events around May where people start a lot of things, and it was called Mania, right? And we're that Facebook group has shuttered its group, but Mania has taken its own life from different groups, different people calling it different things, and I think that now you still have that, but she very eloquently discussed hopefully being able to retire that language from our vocabulary, because of, there is it can be triggering for people, and that's, which makes sense, right? Like it makes sense as soon as you hear it, and I don't participate in that. I the anxiety of the idea of starting like 22 projects in a month just seems extreme to me. But so it's not something I participate in. But I did appreciate her discussion about use of the words, and maybe we can call it something different. And so since I do Monogamous May, I'm going to put out there, why don't we call it Flirtatious May, for those of people who like to do all the starts or just touch projects throughout the year. But that being said, though, like there's other people calling it different things, and you know, and why not make it your own, thing. But I do want to say that I am not doing it this year because Monogamous May, working on Cinderella. But of course, if Cinderella finishes this year, next year, will I be doing Monogamous May, or will I be doing something different? But Stitchy Wren is hosting, well, I don't know if she's hosting, but she's inviting people to join her. She is going to be doing Spooky Stitching Mayhem, right? If you can do Christmas in July, which is 6 months before December, why can't you do Halloween in May, which is 6 months before October? I mean, yes, I think today is the halfway mark to Halloween. So why not? I love the idea of that. I think she is doing 13 projects that are spooky related over the course of the month. I'm not sure what the timeline is for that, but go watch her video. I did watch it. I just don't remember because, well, I'm old and my memory doesn't work anymore. But but go check that out. They are fantastic, and so you should be watching them anyways. But I love the idea of calling it Mayhem, right? Because I mean, you wouldn't know it if you've been watching me just since January that I love Halloween, and that if I could be Halloween 365, I would be. Well, actually, that's not true. We've already discussed this. I'm not a Halloween 365. I give Christmas its due. So really, I'm like Halloween 300, right? Like pretty much like I'll do like right about now is when I start, really being excited about Halloween and wanting to work on Halloween projects and things like that. So there's a part of me that really wishes I was participating in Spooky Stitching Mayhem, but I'm not. So, but maybe next year. So we'll see. But yeah, and the last thing I wanted to mention that I'm really excited about, which is over on Instagram, there is a new Insta account called Diversity in Stitching, and it's several people, and I didn't write down everyone who is working on this, so my apologies for that. But go check out the group. Go check out the page. It does list everyone who's going to be the admin for that. But they are collecting and inviting people who are from diverse communities to participate in being part of a directory, essentially. And I think the website, I don't know exactly what the website's going to look like. They're still building it, but they're inviting people to volunteer to be part of this directory. So if you are a person who belongs to a diverse community, and they were defining it as a BIPOC community, people who are LGBTQIA plus, as well as people who are living with disabilities or yeah, I think those are the three categories that they are starting with. I think they are open to other diverse communities and vulnerable communities, um, historically marginalized communities, however you want to think about it. But really, it's about elevating voices and designers and small businesses that are owned by these individuals who historically have not necessarily been at the front of the line. And I want to say that I was very grateful for that. I think that I personally have always tried to find people who don't. Actually, let me preface that. Most of this country doesn't look like me. Right. Let's be real. Asians, as a general whole, are one of the smallest um, groups of of BIPOC individuals. Well, we're not really considered part of BIPOC, but people of color that we're one of the smallest groups. I am a Gen Xer. At the time of my growing up, Asians accounted for something like 2 to 3% of the population. So I'm just letting you know, like I live in a world where most people don't look like me. So let me preface that by like saying that. But I do try now, very much so, to find floss tubers and Instagram accounts for people who don't look or think like me at all, right? Like in all communities, but I try to find people who, and I find it very hard to find them, right? And I blame the YouTube algorithm, frankly. I have a friend who is a coder who, when we were talking about this last night, in fact, and she says it really is the inherent biases that tend to get put into algorithms that people aren't even aware of. And like she talked about, like there are actually articles about that of like other coders trying to remove bias in coding language that you just don't even realize it's there. And I was just fascinated by it. And there are people who are trying to solve that problem, but apparently it is there. Like it's which is which I it was things I didn't know about, but I was very intrigued by what she was telling me. And when I told her about this group, this diversity and stitching group, and how they're going to have this website with a directory where you can find people from diverse communities, again, floss tubers, Instagram accounts, small business owners, designers, fabric dyers, like, right, like whatever, like is within the cross stitching community. And when I mentioned that to her, she's like, that will help, right? Like that will actually help with the algorithms that exist, not only just in Google, but like also in YouTube and in Instagram and things like that, right? And so she was like, for people to go and engage in that page, and then for there to be the appropriate hashtags, they're using the right language in your videos and things like that, that will help break the algorithm to a certain extent, and elevate that. So anyways, what I'm going to say is that if you are a person who is part of a diverse community, please consider adding yourself to the directory, so that way those of us who are looking for you can find you, right? If you're a designer, a small business owner, go add yourself, because those of us who are looking for you can find you. And because we want to find you. And for those of you who are not part of a community, and you're like, hey, well, go look at them, go find them, go watch them. And if you have friends or people who should be listing themselves, encourage them to join. And then you yourself go take a look, go buy from a small business, go buy for a director. Like May is Asian American History Month, right? And so like Stitch Asia is a thing that happens, and I love that. And you know, I love the idea that people are honoring Asian culture and Asian communities by stitching on Asian themed patterns. But most of those Asian themed patterns are designed by white designers. And you know, and I have complicated feelings about appropriation of Asian culture. It's so widespread in American culture that Asian culture is just, I mean, it's just appropriated everywhere, and it's not even thought about, right? Like even well-meaning intended allies will design Asian inspired patterns, right? And so it's like, you know, and I understand that, like, and I have complicated feelings back because there's a part of me that's just like, I don't like it. I wish that it wasn't, right? But then I also am mixed race, and you know, and my father loved Asian cultures, and I think about everything he did that was in love of Thailand, right? He loved Thailand. He my dad lived there for 20 years. Like he, it wasn't like this wasn't like a, you know, I showed up and oh, now I got me an Asian wife and brought her back. Like my dad moved to, well, he served in Vietnam. So he served in Vietnam, but after his service in Vietnam, moved to Thailand. Like he was 22, 23, moved to Thailand, and we moved to back to the States when he was 40. So like he, like it wasn't, um, you know, so he, well, we lived in multiple places in Asia, not just in Thailand, but it was, and I think about him, and like, is he appropriating culture when he shows his love for Southeast Asia and his wife and his, right? And I kind of think back on that, like, would people consider him someone who appropriates? And I don't think it would be fair, right? Because like for him it became part of who he was to a certain extent, even though he understood he was a Thai. Like, I'm not saying he thought he was, but like, you know, so I have complicated feelings, right? So, and I am not an expert in this in any way. So in my mind, stitch Asian things if you want to stitch Asian things. But that being said, why not find an Asian designer? If you can't find an Asian designer, right, and you really want to stitch it, like, right, Leela Studios is an Asian designer. Cottage Garden Samplings is an Asian designer, right? Those aren't Asian themed, right? Like their designs are not Asian themed. That's okay, right? Like you can design, you can stitch on them. That's Stitch Asia because you're supporting a designer. But if you really want to stitch Asian themes and the designs you're finding are by non-Asian designers, then stitch it on Asian, oh, you know, dyed fabric. You know, be sure you're doing skin conversions, right? Um, so it's, so, you know, and then go take a look at diversity in stitching. And that's just one example. That's just Asians, right? Do that for other cultures. Like, do that for other communities and support them. And you know, it's, you will be, you there's so many great things out there, and I just can't look at it. Anyways, that's my soapbox for today. I'm trying to be inclusive. I don't know if any of that's gonna make anybody mad. I hope not. I hope not. Just telling you to go find new people. Listen to somebody stitch on something by somebody that doesn't look like you. I hope I don't lose people for that. All right, I don't have a lot of haul. You've already shown you my my giveaway that I received from Sarah for my Swear I Am Stitching. I already showed you my Fabric of the Month Club from Yummy Fiberlicious. So this is from Color and Cotton. Again, I get the neutral colors from Color and Cotton on 32 count, 32 count Lugana, and this is called Pampas Grass. Nice neutral here to have. Don't have an idea for that. And I don't recall if I showed this to you last month or not, but I did get this last month. But if I didn't, you know, I'm showing it to you now. And if I did, you get to see it again because I love it. My favorite book in the world is Dune. And so here is a needle miter that I got from Nerdy Needle Design Co. She is on Etsy. Come on, focus. Focus. It's the 1970s book cover. And she started doing things where she's got backs. And so the back on this for this month was, come on. Come on. It says bum looker, but I also got this one that's got a little corgi butt. And then this one is baby got back. So, anyways, I love her needle binders. I like the wood. Go check them out. And last but not least, not really a haul, but I am in No New Starts. I'm doing the road trip challenge in No New Starts, and I want to give away. Got a project bag. So, No New Starts is closed to people, unfortunately. But I am enjoying it. I think it'll be the only year. I think that based on the fact that I'm focusing on so many older patterns and I'm not really starting a whole lot of new ones, I don't think I will have enough whips going into 23 to warrant staying in No New Starts for next year. But I will say that I really have enjoyed it. It's really helped me move some of my stitching along. And I do recommend it for those people who are looking for something to focus on if you have a large number of whips that you want to do. But I'm also in Fandom Stitching Facebook. Again, all of that's below. That one is open to everybody. Star Wars themed this year. And I'm a little mixed bag on that. Like sometimes I remember to post things for the challenges. Sometimes I don't. But one of the things that they're doing that's really a pretty easy challenge is that you're just watching the movies and the TV series each month, and then all you gotta do is just post a picture at the beginning of what you're working on while you're watching the movie, and then at the end picture, and that's a challenge, and you got points for that. So consider joining us if you're a Star Wars fan. Even if you're not a Star Wars fan, you just feel like we're watching the Star Wars movies, and you just want to be in some kind of a challenge group that helps you move some stitching along. It's a fun group. We welcome you in. So, all right. For not a whole lot of stitching this month, this ended up being a long video. I hope you stuck around to the end. It was all stitching related, I think. But it's a Sunday. It's May 1st. Whatever you are doing in May, whether it is monogamous May, flirtatious May, spooky stitching mayhem, or something in between, I hope that it's a fantastic month for you and that it is fun. And wherever you are, I hope you're having the day that you need, right? And in the meantime, I hope that, let's all have a stitchy good time. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.